The courtroom was colder than I expected. Not physically, but in the way people looked at me, like I was already guilty. My ex-wife sat across the aisle, her lawyer whispering something in her ear, her jaw tight, eyes full of disdain. Her parents sat just behind her, stiff and unreadable. I could almost feel the weight of their judgment before a word had been spoken. I didn't blame them. Not entirely. As far as they knew, I was the villain of a story, the cheating husband, the liar, the man who broke their daughter's heart and tore apart their perfect image of family. That was the version of the story they'd been fed by her friends, maybe even by the lawyer they hired. And for a long time, I let them believe it. I didn't defend myself when she spread lies. I didn't retaliate. I thought that somehow the truth didn't matter anymore, that walking away quietly would bring peace. I was wrong. What she did to me wasn't just betrayal. It was demolition. She didn't just leave me. She tried to erase me, took my son, poisoned him against me, told the world I was dangerous, unstable. I lost friends. My own mother stopped calling for a while. I didn't know how deep her lies went until the custody battle started. And that's when I decided I wouldn't stay silent anymore. My lawyer had begged me to speak up sooner. But I waited, gathering evidence, collecting every message, every recording, every piece of truth she never thought I'd keep. And the final piece, the one that would change everything, arrived just 3 nights before this hearing. It was a letter from someone I hadn't spoken to in over a year, her former best friend, a woman who disappeared after divorce began, swallowed by the whirlwind of my ex-wife's manipulations. In the letter, she told me things I hadn't known, proof of how my ex-wife had staged her bruises, faked hospital visits, and sent anonymous tips to child services just to make me look unstable. But that wasn't even the worst of it. The worst part was what she did to our son. She coached him, rehearsed stories with him, told him to cry when certain questions were asked, promised him rewards for saying that I'd hurt him. There was in texts and voice notes. Her voice, calm, chilling, telling our child how to lie to destroy me. I didn't sleep after that. I just waited for this moment. When the judge finally entered and called the room to order, I could feel my heart pounding in my throat. My lawyer stood, made the standard statements, and then my ex-wife was called to testify. She went on, tears falling on cue, voice trembling like a seasoned actress. Her dad squeezed her hand from behind. Her mom nodded solemnly. Then came my turn. I didn't argue. I didn't even look at her. I simply pulled a manila folder from my bag, walked quietly to the bench, and placed it in front of the judge. "Your Honor," I said, "I'd like to submit new evidence before we proceed." He opened it. He scanned the first page, then the second. His eyes didn't change, but the air in the room did. Then he said 5 words I'll never forget. "Lock the doors. No one leaves this room." Everything stopped. Her father's hand dropped from her shoulder. Her mother gripped the side of the bench, lips trembling. And my ex-wife, she froze, as if the blood had drained from her body. She knew what was coming. The judge didn't speak for nearly a full minute. Then he began reading aloud. First, the text messages, her voice in written form, bragging about how she'd win everything if she just pushed the right buttons. Then the recordings, her voice instructing our son to remember what Daddy did, even though he hadn't. She was careful with her words, but not careful enough. Then the letter, the friend-turned-witness who'd lived inside that mess and finally couldn't stay silent. By the time he finished reading, the room was silent. The judge looked up, not at me, but at her. "Do you understand the severity of what I've just read?" he asked. She didn't respond. Her hands were clenched in her lap, knuckles white. Her lawyer shifted uncomfortably, but said nothing. The judge continued. "You've made a mockery of this court, abused your child, and weaponized the law against an innocent man. Custody will be transferred immediately. A psychological evaluation is ordered. Visitation suspended until further notice." Her dad turned his head away from her. Her mom sobbed into her hands. My ex-wife sat frozen in place, eyes wide, lips parted as if she wanted to scream but didn't have the breath. I didn't smile. I didn't gloat. I just sat there, numb, barely holding myself together. Because even in victory, this wasn't justice. There was no joy in watching the mother of my child fall apart. There was only grief for the time lost, for the damage done, for the innocence stolen from our son. After the hearing, I walked out alone. No applause, no handshake, just silence. My son was waiting at home, unaware of the storm that had passed over his head. I hugged him longer than usual that night. He didn't ask questions. He just smiled and told me he was glad I was staying. That night, I sat in the dark and finally allowed myself to cry, not for the past, but for the hope that maybe, just maybe, this was the beginning of healing. Because betrayal doesn't always come with a knife in the back. Sometimes it comes dressed as love, with a smile on its face and lies in its pocket. And if you're lucky, truth still finds a way to be heard, even if it arrives too late to fix everything.